بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء أما بعد. I wanted to start off by just first and foremost apologizing for the delay in my arrival to this session. I had another session that I was scheduled for with the young folks at Mina across the campus. So after I finished that, I came over. The question, balancing tradition and modern challenges is one that is very difficult. It's difficult because there's this idea that modern challenges require radical solutions. And if we're trying to build these radical solutions, do we go solely based off of the problem that's ahead of us and the first thought that comes to our mind that fits within a political, liberal, secular, Republican, democratic framework? Or is my solution meant to address a modern issue in a modern world while ultimately solving the akhirah for us, making sense out of our dunya and our akhirah simultaneously? For Muslims, what makes our solutions different isn't just the fact that we have a solution. Our solution is the solution, because it originates from wahi, revelation. It comes from the Quran, and the Quran, when understood and applied properly, addresses challenges at many levels. It will address the social justice element to it. It'll address the economical element to it. It'll ensure that it solidifies and further strengthens communities, societies, families. It'll ensure that it educates people to become better human beings. It guides them in the dunya and also guides them in the next. Muslim scholars play a very important role in providing these solutions, because for them, providing solutions to challenges is a whole procedure, it's a process. You'll notice that scholars, academics, put Islam to aside even for a moment, just from a broader lens, are usually the last people to any party. If there's any policy change happening, if there's any study that's occurring, or anywhere where there is scholarly work involved, those people will usually be the last one, because they are the ones that are given the task of being tedious. These are the people that everyone else is relying on. That what they've done, what they've come up with, the solution they've come up with, actually is the right one. It's ethical, it's correct, it lines up with revelation. In Arabic, the process of coming up with these technical solutions from a jurisprudence standpoint is called ijtihad. And if you go to the root of that word, it connotates that hard work, that juhd. When we speed things up, the benefit of it is that we have real life solutions that are able to solve people's problems in real time. The challenge with speeding things up is that you do a so-so job. Then when you look back at it, you think to yourself, man, what did I do? Was this what should have actually happened? Should we have actually cooked this loaf of bread like this? It was supposed to be a 3-hour cook, and we made it into a 1-hour cook. It's chewy, it's not right. Something's off here. That's exactly what happens when it comes to ijtihad and juhd. Now, with that said, on the scholars of the community, there is a tremendous responsibility, because there is this tendency of holding back when we face new challenges, because a new challenge is risky and it involves stepping out of the box and saying something that may not have direct precedence. But for the imams in our community, and I feel out of place saying this with Dr. Yusuf and Imam Nadeem being here, but just speaking, imagining they're not in the room right now, and just speaking to friends that are in front of me, there needs to be an ongoing conversation between the community and the imam, so there's a perspective that circulates from both sides. When I returned from my studies and arrived in America for my first imam position, this was like in 2007. I remember this, that for the first almost 3 or 4 years, I spent most of my time, if not all of it, just hanging out at college campuses. Because it gave me an idea. It was very different from going to an MSA event, speaking there and leaving, It was very different just sitting with people and talking with them, just hanging out with them, just listening to them, hearing their challenges and what their problems were, and also understanding from that scholarly imam standpoint the reluctance that we have to accommodating people at times has very serious and real ramifications. It hurts people not just as individuals but as societies, and it has an impact on their iman. I remember I was sitting, when I first, again, new graduate, very reluctant, had very little confidence even till today, but at that time even less when it came to my own ilm. So when someone asked a question, I would pick up a phone and call my teachers. So one of my teachers in England who I had studied ifta with, kind of like a roadmap to the specialty of Islamic law, his name is Sufi Tahir Wadi, very pious, righteous man, very pious person, just in the way he was. When he even sat in class, when someone would say something funny, he would cover his face while smiling and laughing. He was a very timid person, very bashful human being. So I called him and I said, Sheikh, there's a situation that I have. There's this guy, he married a girl. The guy's African American, he converted to Islam. The girl is from Desi background, and they got into a little bit of a tiff, and so he divorced her 3 times. He got really mad and said, divorce, divorce, divorce. So they asked me the situation, and I kind of told them, the standard position among the 4 schools of thought is this. So that guy pulled me on the side and he said to me, Sheikh, if this marriage ends, I'm not doing this to hold you hostage. Like, he was being honest. I could tell when someone's being real with me. He said, look, man, if this marriage is over, most likely I'm just going to leave Islam and go back to my old faith. I'm not holding the faith, hostage. I'm not like threatening you in any way. I'm just telling you facts. Like, this is where I am in life right now. So I picked up the phone and I called my sheikh and I asked him, I said, Sheikh, what do I do here? On one side, there is this orthodox position on divorce and marriage, and on the other hand, we have this brother over here who's telling me the reality of the crossroads of life that he's at. And the sheikh, he scolded me first. He said, why are you even asking this question? Preserving people's iman comes before anything else. Without iman, there is no fiqh. Without iman, there is no Islamic law to act upon. So this is a very tricky issue. And the question, I'm not sure if I have an answer in this Q&A right here, because at least the way I perceive the question, it seemed to be about
inclusive
women and youth inclusivity.
Yes, that's
yeah. The way I perceive the question, at least, I mean, women and youth inclusivity, I don't think there's really much anything there. I can touch on that if you'd like to. I think Usala Permal did a great job at addressing that issue of that inclusivity. But if we're just talking about judicial rulings and the framework of how to modernize Islamic law, everything I said thus far applies. But if we add the second element to it, this last element to it, which is including youth and sisters in our community, there is no question here. The fact that we're even having this conversation is mind-boggling. This deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not sent for any one race or any one segment of society. It was sent for all of mankind. And the more we gatekeep or hold people out of their right, the more harm that comes to them, and it cascades down to generations that will follow. It involves leadership and empowerment for people to come forward and raise their voice, because if we have masajid and institutions that are representing the community and the youth aren't able to raise their voice on the challenges that face them and be a part of the solutions that they are caught in, the problems that they are facing, they're not allowed to be a part of those solutions, how will those solutions actually be meaningful? But while we're bringing people, in particular youth, into leadership positions, it can't just be an open door that let's come in and let's just see what happens. It needs to be a well thought out process. What I mean by this is, while we want our youth to come into positions of leadership, we need to make sure they are given the opportunity to develop into those leaders. That tarbiyah is happening. That they have a chance to come and study their deen. And the same thing with sisters. The sisters in our community, they want to learn. I teach at a seminary. At Qalam Seminary this year, we have 600 students that are studying full-time, 9 a.m. in the morning to 3 p.m., 5 days a week. It is monumental. It's historical.
MashaAllah.
Thank you so much. But maybe the round of applause part, and don't do it, I can't solicit it. is the fact that when you look at the gender balance there, when you're seeing the sisters that are there, and I'm hearing them, I'm listening to them, and they're telling me their stories of what they've gone through to come here. And I'm sitting there from a teacher's standpoint looking at the student body, and I'm thinking to myself that with this sort of education that goes out to the youth and to the sisters, the change that will occur is unimaginable. Look, if you look at, I'm going to make one more reflection, then I'll pass it on. I've definitely spoken longer than I should have. Okay. Imam Nadeem, please pardon me. I saw Ustadha Purmul. She went into lecture mode, so I was like, okay. No, not at all. It was good content, but so.
I had to represent for more than one sister, that's why.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
Ustadha Purmul came loaded today. When she saw Bilal, she said, I'm going to rinse this guy out. May Allah reward you, because every time I see Bilal, I have the same emotion. I've known Bilal from when he was much younger in college. He was one of the young guys that I would hang out with in my off Imam hours. He's actually from Chicago too. His whole family, I know them all really well. So khair, the last point I wanted to share. Giving our sisters a chance to speak and be involved and be at that table, and also empowering them and the brothers and the youth equally, is the lifeline of what happens next in the ummah. Honestly, it is. And if anyone has legal issues with this, let's come and talk. There really isn't that much legal discussion on this front. On this front, when it comes to gender interaction, there are guidelines of our deen on haya and modesty. There are some basic guidelines on how gender should interact when they're with one another. But as far as brain power goes, as far as strategy goes, as far as planning goes, as far as implementation goes, we need to work together as a team, as an ummah. When people see themselves and the people that are in front of them, when the sisters see only one right now, but inshallah many more Muslima Promos, Ustadha Muslima Promos sitting here, they will be inspired, just as they see Imam Yusuf, who inspired many young men from Dallas to go and study. You want to see yourself and people in front of you. Anyway, khair, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept and put barakah in the words that we say.